The story begins with a horrifying scene. A girl is seen drowning in water, struggling desperately to survive. But suddenly, she wakes up. It feels like it was just a nightmare. However, the reality is far more terrifying. As she regains her senses, she realizes that she is hanging from a noose. She struggles in pain, gasping for breath, calling out for help, but no one comes. Slowly, her strength fades, and she dies there. It becomes clear that this girl, Tantry, did not choose to end her life. She was murdered. The story then takes us a few days back. Tantry is a doctor, and we see her performing a delivery using hydrotherapy. Everything seems normal at first, but the moment she checks the baby's heartbeat, her expression suddenly changes. Something feels wrong. She becomes disturbed, unable to hide her emotions. After some time, Nurse Ida approaches her and gently asks what happened. Tantry, unable to control herself, breaks down crying and rests her head on Ida's lap. But despite her emotional state, she refuses to explain anything. The next day, Ida brings another woman into the hydrotherapy room. Suddenly, she screams in fear, as if she has seen something horrifying. But when we look closely, there is nothing except a cockroach in the room. Embarrassed, she tells the woman to wait while she calls a doctor. However, the moment she turns back, the woman screams loudly. This time, when Ida looks again, the cockroach is gone. Instead, Tantry's dead body is hanging there. The sight is shocking and unnatural. The scene then shifts to two girls, Pika and Aram, who arrive at a newly built hospital. They introduce themselves as nursing students who have come here for an internship. But things don't go as expected. An official informs them that this hospital does not allow female interns. They can stay for one night, but they must leave the next morning. Only male interns are accepted here. At that moment, Ida arrives and starts showing them around the hospital. Pika feels worried and unsure about their future here. They had come based on someone's recommendation, and now everything seems uncertain. Aram encourages Pika to speak to the management. When Pika talks to the official, he reassures her that everything will be fine. He promises that they will get the internship and that he will personally speak to the hospital owner. Later, when Pika returns to the room, she notices Aram behaving strangely. Aram is talking to someone about some tablets she bought from the pharmacy, and she looks tense. The moment she sees Pika, she becomes nervous and tries to leave quickly. Pika stops her and points out that there is blood on her skirt. Hearing this, Aram becomes even more anxious and rushes toward the washroom. As she walks through the corridor, she feels a strange presence, as if someone is following her. In fact, we see a demonic hand reaching out toward her. Just as she feels someone touch her, she turns back, but there is no one there. Trying to ignore it, she opens a nearby door, thinking it is the washroom, but it turns out to be the hydrotherapy room. Since she urgently needs to change, she decides to use this room anyway. But suddenly, one of the taps turns on by itself, and instead of water, blood starts flowing out. Terrified, she quickly turns it off. Then, another tap behind her turns on, but this time, clean water flows from it. As she begins to use it, she hears footsteps. It feels like someone has entered the room and is standing right behind her. Slowly, she pulls aside the curtain, but once again, there is no one there. Now completely frightened, she tries to leave, but just as she steps forward, she feels something pulling her back. At that moment, we see shadows of black hands reaching toward her. When she turns around, everything disappears again. Suddenly, someone calls her name. She turns in fear, only to see Ida standing there. Ida asks her what she is doing in that room. Aram nervously replies that she was just looking for the washroom. The next morning, things seem to improve. Pika's referrer has already spoken to someone in the management named Teto. He informs them that the hospital has reopened after 5 years and is still undergoing renovation. Because of this, he allows both of them to do their internship there. That same day, the hospital staff organizes a medical camp outside. Teto, who is a doctor, leads the team. However, no one from the city comes to the camp. People are avoiding the hospital because of a death case that happened there recently. Hearing this, Pika becomes concerned. But Teto quickly dismisses it, saying that the incident happened years ago and there is no point in discussing it now. After some time, Teto asks Ringo to take the girls back to the hospital while he stays at the camp. Everyone agrees except Aram, who has somewhere else to go. It is then revealed that Aram secretly goes to meet a boy in a hotel room. The situation becomes tense as the boy tries to force himself on her again. Aram angrily confronts him, saying that even before, nothing happened with her consent. He had drugged her drink, and that is how everything happened. She then reveals the shocking truth. She is pregnant and has come to buy tablets from the pharmacy. The boy tries to calm her down, saying he is ready to take responsibility, but Aram refuses. She is not ready for such a life-changing burden. Back at the hospital, Teto orders the staff to clean the hydrotherapy room thoroughly so it can be used for another purpose. Meanwhile, Aram returns to her duty with him. After finishing with a patient, Teto tells her that there are still 30 minutes left in their shift and asks her to call him if any patient arrives. Once he leaves, Pika peeks into the room and asks Aram how her day was. Aram replies that it was good and mentions that Teto seems different from Ringo. But before they can continue their conversation, something strange happens. A girl enters the room silently and sits on a chair without even looking at them. Confused, Aram asks who she is because there was no appointment scheduled. The girl responds in a cold and unsettling tone that her appointment is already booked. Her voice feels unnatural, sending chills down their spine. Sensing something is wrong, Pika decides to leave and check at the counter, leaving Aram alone in the room. And then, slowly, the girl turns toward Aram. The way she moves, the way she speaks, everything about her feels terrifying. Aram is completely frozen in fear. When she gathers the courage to ask the girl her name, the answer sends chills down her spine. The girl softly says, "Tantry." The same Tantry, the one who was found dead at the beginning of the film. Tantry continues to stare at Aram with a disturbing smile. She doesn't blink, doesn't move, just keeps smiling. And then, something even more horrifying happens. Water starts dripping from her mouth. Unable to handle the fear, Aram slowly backs away and turns her face aside, trying to avoid eye contact. But Tantry keeps staring at her, as if she is enjoying her fear. With trembling hands, Aram steps closer, trying to act normal. She reaches out to wipe Tantry's face, but at that exact moment, Tantry suddenly places her hand on Aram's belly. This terrifies Aram even more. She tries to stay calm, but suddenly Tantry makes a horrifying move, and instantly, the lights go out. The darkness makes everything worse. Aram starts panicking and fumbles to find her phone. As soon as she turns on the flashlight, she is shocked. Tantry is gone. It's as if she was never there. Trying to escape, Aram rushes toward the door. But just as she reaches it, the door slams shut in front of her. She turns toward the window, hoping to get out from there, but that too shuts on its own. Now she is trapped. Suddenly, a loud sound comes from behind her. Something breaks. Aram turns around in fear, and what she sees is horrifying. Tantry is there again, smashing her own head against the wall again and again. The moment Tantry notices Aram watching her, she slowly moves toward her. Terrified, Aram collapses to the ground. And just like that, Tantry disappears again. For a moment, Aram feels relieved, thinking it's over. She tries to stand up, but something feels wrong. Her body feels extremely heavy. Then it is revealed. Tantry is sitting on her shoulders. The weight forces Aram down as Tantry attacks her. Aram screams in pain, completely helpless. Just then, Teto arrives and manages to bring her back to consciousness. The scene then shifts to the same sweeper who had earlier misbehaved with Aram. He is now driving an ambulance recklessly, trying to overtake a truck. Suddenly, he sees Tantry standing right in front of him on the road. Terrified, he jerks the vehicle back, but he still attempts to overtake the truck. The moment he does, a bus appears in front of him. He has no choice but to stop abruptly. And in that instant, the truck from behind crashes into the ambulance. The impact is brutal. Iron rods from the truck pierce through the vehicle and into his body. He dies on the spot. And just like that, Tantry disappears again. In the next scene, Aram is seen crying. Pika comes to her and asks what happened. Through tears, Aram confesses that the man who died had misbehaved with her the previous day. In anger, she had wished for his death, but she never actually meant it. Now she is terrified, wondering if his death happened because of her. Pika tries to calm her down, assuring her that it is not her fault. Meanwhile, Ida and another man are assigned to repair the hydrotherapy room under Teto's orders. But something strange keeps happening. No matter how much they try to fix it, the room only gets worse. Taps break on their own, the generator keeps failing, and objects move and shatter without any reason. Frustrated, the man tells Ida that this room cannot be repaired and should be sealed permanently. Agreeing to this, they build a wall to close off the entrance. But as soon as the man finishes his work and prepares to leave, the lights suddenly go out. He hears footsteps nearby, thinking it must be Ida. He turns on the generator and casually warns her not to wander around. But the moment he turns, he sees something horrifying. Tantry is hanging upside down on the wall behind him. Before he can even react, she appears right in front of him with a terrifying face. Panicking, the man runs for his life without looking back. He reaches outside near a river. There is a narrow tree trunk placed across it to cross over. Still trembling in fear, he tries to walk across it, but he loses his balance and falls, barely managing to hold on to the trunk. Hanging between life and death, he tries desperately to pull himself up. But something is pulling him down. It is Tantry. She drags him into the water from below, and he disappears completely. In the next scene, the same man is seen back in the hospital as if nothing happened. He is searching for Ida, wanting to tell her something urgent. He even spots her and calls out, but she ignores him and walks away. Confused, he follows her into another room, but she is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, he slips and falls. At that exact moment, a lawnmower nearby turns on by itself and moves toward him. Before he can escape, the machine runs over him, killing him brutally. It becomes clear that Tantry is controlling all of this. She is the one behind these deaths. Later that night, Pika and Aram are sleeping. Suddenly, Pika starts twitching violently in her sleep. After a while, she wakes up and notices that Aram is also shaking uncontrollably. She quickly wakes her up. Aram, still terrified, tells her something shocking. She reminds Pika about the girl who came into the room earlier. According to her, that same girl was leaning over Pika while she was sleeping. When Aram tried to wake her up, the girl turned toward her. Aram describes the horrifying details. The girl had a long tongue, and she was licking her face and playing with her hair. She says clearly, that thing is not human. Before they can process anything, there is a sudden knock on the door. They are informed that another death has occurred in the hospital, the same one they had just witnessed. The next morning, Pika goes to Ida's room to offer condolences, as Ida's husband has died. But when she arrives, she notices Ringo already there, pressuring Ida to reveal the truth. He tells her that he cannot guarantee her safety unless she tells him everything. Just then, Pika arrives, and Ringo angrily leaves the room. Later that night, Pika finds Aram sitting alone in the lawn, crying. She approaches her and gently asks what is wrong. At first, Aram refuses to speak, but when Pika insists, she finally breaks down. Through tears, Aram reveals a painful truth. She and her friend had been repeatedly abused in the clinic. Hearing this, Pika is shocked and asks her who was responsible. But before Aram can answer, Pika's phone suddenly rings. At the same time, we are shown Tantry stopping Aram's friend on the road. She asks him for a lift. Seeing her beauty, the boy agrees without hesitation and asks where she wants to go. Tantry silently points toward a house and sits behind him on the bike, setting the stage for something even more terrifying. At this moment, Tantry begins to manipulate reality itself. She makes the boy feel as if he is riding his bike on a bridge. Sitting behind him, she tightly holds his waist, and under this illusion, the boy speeds up the bike without realizing the truth. But in reality, there is no bridge. It is just a cliff, and within seconds, he loses control and falls straight down the hill. The accident is brutal, and that very call is the one Pika receives. Without wasting time, she rushes there along with Aram. At the hospital, they see the boy's mother crying uncontrollably. The pain of the loss is unbearable. Seeing this, Aram becomes emotional and quietly leaves from there. She returns to the hostel, packs her belongings, and decides to leave everything behind. When Pika questions her, asking why she is leaving the training, Aram finally breaks down. She reveals the truth about Damas. He had been forcing himself on her from the beginning. He had even drugged her drink, and now, after everything, he is forcing her to get an abortion. Pika is shocked. She had no idea Aram was going through something so terrible. Before Pika can respond, Aram says something unexpected. She calls Pika an angel, someone innocent who does not understand these things. But Pika denies it. She reveals that Damas had once tried to manipulate her as well. When he tried to force her to come to his room, she left him. That is why their relationship ended. Hearing this, something changes in Aram. Her expression becomes dark, her eyes turn demonic, and for a moment, she looks completely possessed. She screams loudly and suddenly faints. The next morning, Pika learns that Aram has submitted her resignation letter. Concerned, she goes to Tedo and asks about it. Tedo calmly confirms that he accepted her resignation. According to him, if someone does not want to stay, he will not force them. Then Pika asks him about the hospital owner, who has never been seen. To her surprise, Tedo smiles and reveals that he himself is the owner. He had hidden his identity to observe his staff closely. Since the hospital had been shut down once before, he did not want to repeat past mistakes. When Pika tries to ask about why the hospital was closed earlier, Tedo avoids the question and walks away. This only increases her suspicion. She becomes determined to find out the truth behind everything happening here. While investigating, she discovers that a doctor named Tantry had died here years ago. It was believed to be a self-inflicted death. Digging deeper, she finds a photo of Tantry with Ringo. At that very moment, she notices Ringo standing outside the lab, watching her. Frightened, she quickly leaves. Now suspicious of Ringo, Pika decides to investigate him. The next day, when Ringo leaves the hospital, she secretly checks his bag. Inside, she finds newspaper clippings about the death of a gynecologist at Lembayung clinic. But what she finds next is even more disturbing. There is an album, not filled with pictures, but with strands of girls' hair, each labeled with their names. And among them, she finds Aram's hair as well. Before she can process this, Ringo suddenly returns. Panicking, Pika hides. Ringo checks his bag and realizes the album is missing. He becomes extremely anxious and rushes out to find it. Taking this chance, Pika escapes. While running, she bumps into Tedo and tells him everything. She claims that Ringo might be responsible for Tantry's death, and possibly the one who assaulted Aram as well. Hearing this, Tedo takes her away from the hospital and begins to explain. He tells her that Tantry was once a gynecologist here and a very good person. But one day, she suddenly took her own life. After that, rumors spread, and the hospital had to be shut down. Although his explanation sounds convincing, something still feels off. That night, Pika has a strange dream. In it, she sees Tantry crying in Ida's lap. Then the scene shifts to a grave, where Tantry is digging frantically with her bare hands. Suddenly, Tantry grabs Aram and pulls her inside the grave. The vision is terrifying. Pika wakes up in fear, realizing it was just a dream. But when she looks around, she notices that Aram is no longer in her bed. Panicking, she rushes outside searching for her and immediately calls Tedo to inform him that Aram is missing. While searching, she notices a broken section of the ceiling near the hydrotherapy room, with a ladder placed beneath it. She climbs up and looks inside. What she sees is horrifying. Aram is inside the room, in a terrifying condition. She is completely possessed by something evil. Aram is lying in the water. The moment she sees Pika, she grabs her and pulls her inside. She repeatedly drags her down into the water, trying to drown her. Again and again, she forces Pika's head underwater. Pika is on the verge of dying. Finally, when Pika manages to come up for air, she realizes something strange. Aram is gone, and the room, which was previously damaged and horrifying, now appears clean and normal. As she comes out, she sees something that reveals the truth. Tedo is standing there, mixing something into a glass. Moments later, Tantry appears, and Tedo forces her to drink it. Within seconds, Tantry loses consciousness. Taking advantage of her helpless state, Tedo assaults her. When she begins to regain consciousness, he threatens her, saying that he will kill her and her family if she reveals anything. Later, when Tantry tries to tell someone the truth over a call, Tedo drags her into the hydrotherapy room. Furious, he reminds her that he had warned her to stay silent. Without mercy, he grabs her by the hair and repeatedly forces her head into the water. She struggles desperately, but eventually, she loses her life. After killing her, Tedo calls the same sweepers who were seen earlier.
Together, they stage the scene to make it look like Tantry took her own life. The truth is finally clear. Tantry was murdered, and everything that followed was a result of that sin. Even after being hanged, Tantry was not completely dead. There was still life left inside her body. Slowly, as she regained consciousness, she struggled desperately to free herself from the noose. She fought for her life, gasping and trying to escape. At that moment, Ida arrived and wanted to save her. But before she could do anything, Tedo stopped her. Without any hesitation, he made sure Tantry would never survive. He cut her throat and ended her life brutally. As this horrifying truth unfolds, the vision ends, and Pika suddenly finds herself back inside the water. She notices that Aram is also there with her, unconscious. Just then, the real Tedo arrives and casually asks if everything is fine. Hiding her fear, Pika replies that everything is under control, and she will take care of Aram. She lifts Aram onto her shoulder and starts taking her away from there. On the way, she asks Aram what she was doing in that room. Through another disturbing realization, Aram reveals that she had gone there to perform her own abortion. And in that moment, another truth is exposed. Aram was also assaulted by Tedo, just like Tantry. The trauma overwhelms her and she faints again. At that exact moment, Tedo appears behind Pika and grabs her. He threatens her, warning that if she tells anyone about this, he will kill her too. As he says this, he starts forcing himself on her. Pika tries to resist, but Tedo takes a sharp pin and stabs her hand. She screams in pain, but he silences her brutally, forcing her to stop crying. Just before things get worse, Ringo suddenly appears from behind and injects something into Tedo's neck. Within seconds, Tedo collapses and loses consciousness. Ringo quickly apologizes to Pika and reassures her that everything will be okay. He finally reveals the truth. He was Tantry's fiancé. That is why his pictures with her existed. Tantry was pregnant at the time of her death, but he was not the father of that child. He had always suspected that something terrible happened to Tantry inside that clinic. But he could not go to the police because Tedo was too powerful and clever. Still, he had accepted Tantry and wanted to be with her. But before he could do anything, he found her hanging body in the hospital. Pika tells him that Tantry's spirit is still trapped in the hospital. She is haunting the place and taking revenge on those responsible. She believes that the only way to end everything is to destroy the hydrotherapy room. But before they can act, Tedo regains consciousness. Without warning, he attacks Ringo and stabs him. With no shame, he confesses that Tantry was going to be the mother of his child. Terrified, Pika takes Aram and tries to escape, while Tedo calmly sits there smoking, as if nothing happened. His twisted past is revealed. His father used to abuse his mother every day, and he grew up watching it helplessly. One day, unable to bear it anymore, he poisoned his own father and killed him. And now, he believes it is time to eliminate everyone just like he did before. With that mindset, he tracks down Pika and Aram and moves toward them to kill them. But at that moment, something unexpected happens. Ringo, who was stabbed earlier, is still alive. Somehow, he manages to bandage himself and heads toward the hydrotherapy room to destroy it. Meanwhile, Tedo is about to kill both the girls. Just then, Ida arrives at the perfect moment and stabs him in the chest, declaring that his game is over. She then rushes to Aram and asks if she is okay. Aram looks at her and asks if she knows about Tantry. Shocked, Ida says yes. Then Aram slowly moves closer and touches her nose with Ida's nose. That small gesture reveals everything. It was something only Tantry used to do. At that moment, it becomes clear that Tantry's spirit is inside Aram. Ida breaks down in tears and says that she still misses her.
But before anything else can happen, Tato suddenly attacks Ida from behind again. He refuses to die so easily. He then turns toward Pika to finish her. But this time, things are different. Tantry, now fully in control inside Aram's body, attacks Tato from behind. She knocks him down and sits on top of him. With pure rage, she brutally pulls out one of his eyes. Before she can do the same to the other, Pika stops her. Pika tells her that it is enough. Her revenge is complete. Now, her soul deserves peace. She assures her that the hydrotherapy room will be destroyed and everything will finally end. Hearing this, Tantry slowly leaves Aram's body. Pika takes Aram away from there as everything begins to settle. Time passes, and we see Tato in prison. His ex-wife comes to meet him and reveals something shocking. She says that she saw Tantry's spirit in the hospital and even tried to warn him that day.
Tato is confused and disturbed by her words. But then, the final twist is revealed. Tantry's spirit is still not at rest. She has now possessed his ex-wife, which means her revenge is not over yet. Tato is still alive, and Tantry is not going to leave this world until she finishes what she started. And with this chilling revelation, the story comes to an end.